It's midnight Otaku, and today we will continue on with some more Umineko no Naku Koro ni Rondo of the Witch and Reasoning.
当主様は具合が優れられないとのことだ。せっかくこうして1年ぶりの会合に集まってくれた諸君と昼食を共にできないことを非常に残念にしておられた。
That was a complete lie. He was raving mad.
ゴーダ、ランチを始めてくれ。
かしこまりました。それでは本日の昼食を始めさせていただきます。
南條先生、そんなにお父様のお具合は悪いの？せめて顔くらい見せてくれてもいいわよね。
体調というよりは機嫌ですな。こればかりはつける薬がありませんので。
おいおい、機嫌ってまたかよ。そりゃないぜ。こちとら秋のクソ忙しい時期にスケジュール都合してご機嫌伺いに来てるんだ。それをよ。
よかったじゃないか、ルドルフ。ご機嫌は伺えたんだ。それとも不機嫌な親父殿を私に代わりお前が説得して連れてきてくれるのかね。
まさかな。
Rudolph shrugged. Apparently, though, Rudolph was willing to be indignant at how self-centered his father was. He wasn't particularly disappointed to be spared a face-to-face meeting.
夕食までにはその機嫌治りそうなの？クラウス兄さん。
そんなことは知らんよ。親父殿に直接聞いてみるといい。もっとも声をかけない方が機嫌の治りは早いと思うんだね。
源氏さんだけだよ、じい様の機嫌を直せるのは。情けないぜ。自分の親の機嫌を使用人に直させるんだからよ。
ジェシカ、余計なことは言わなくていい。
She planned for her complaint to be heard only by her cousins, but it didn't reach Stephen Krause's ears. Scolded, Jessica scowled and turned away, sulking.
機嫌がうんぬんってことは病状はそんな悪くないんじゃねえの？元気がないってんならともかく機嫌が悪いってのは少なくとも気はしっかりしてる証拠だぜ。
おじい様は特に強い気力をお持ちだからね。でも体が必ずしもそれに伴えるとは限らないよ。去年からずっと余命3ヶ月って言われ続けてる。最初の診断が正しいならおじい様は気力だけで流られてるってことになる。気遣ってあげないといけないよ。
Lunch started with the family head seat still empty. The man who should be sitting there had already grown old, and the brilliant glory which had rebuilt the Ushiromiya family in the span of a single lifetime was being forgotten. Even though they were beginning in the middle of the seat, still empty, no one felt it was that odd anymore. Another intermission. Slowly making it through the day. The Ushiromiya family conference is held once every year on the first weekend of October. If a normal family were to hold a so-called family conference, you'd expect it to be nothing more than a reunion of really seen relatives who greet each other around buckets of sushi or something. However, part of the family's great fortune had been lent out to grandfather's children, and no one in this family was considered an adult until they had met with success in business. So this meeting literally was a conference. How much of the fortune was invested, what sort of business was conducted, how much profit was earned, as a result how much of the fortune borrowed from the main family could be repaid, or possibly how much more would be borrowed for future business ventures. What lessons had they learned and what could they learn from their mistakes? It seems that topics like these were discussed very seriously in the past. My dad said it was like lying on a bed of nails. Apparently it used to be a very serious family meeting where people were bathed in scornful and angry voices, and some people even got slapped despite their age. However, that didn't become a thing of the past. Now with everyone pursuing their own business ventures and achieving success, it was becoming more of a normal yearly get-together. Even so, telling grandfather about recent events was extremely stressful, so it was nothing more than a simple get-together for us grandchildren. It was still a real stomachache for our parents. The absence of the man who was the source of all this trouble, regardless of the reason, probably made today's lunch taste much more delicious. The phrase, while the demon is not around, everyone can relax, comes to mind. They really do use some unusual phrases. Anyway, let's introduce Jessica's father, whose face I haven't seen for 6 years. The man sitting in my father's left is his older brother and Jessica's father, Uncle Cross. This name sure is easy to read. Cross. Now that we've gotten used to this string of weird names, our perspective is totally skewed, so Cross doesn't actually seem that bad. It even starts to sound kinda cool. Just like with Aunt Natsui, I didn't have many memories of speaking with Uncle Cross. He'd never been one to chat to children. I felt like he was always talking with the adults, just like Aunt Natsui. And let's check out his character profile. Ushiromiya Cross, Kenzo's first child. As the eldest of the 4 siblings, he leaded the family conference. However, the other siblings think he's trying to get all of the inheritance for himself, and this further strains the tensions between them. He's a real estate investor and has put a lot of money into the development of a resort. However, his results have been harshly criticized. I felt like he was always talking with adults, just like Natsui. According to my father's gossip, he was a spiteful and violent man. If what he said is true, Uncle Cross used to be very domineering from his position as the oldest sibling, and was despised by all the other siblings. Though despite that, these siblings all seemed to be chatting happily together. Oh well, even if their relationship was bad when they were children, sometimes when people grow up and live apart from each other, their relationships change. That's probably what this was. After all, they all had children of about the same age. By sharing the family environment, they probably profited by exchanging opinions. Maybe because of that, a short while ago, the circle of parents began to discuss the exams Jessica would be taking. Jessica, in order to escape questions about exams from my father on her left, purposely faced right while firing off a rapid series of comments, not giving him any chance to get a word in. Moving on, let's look at the end opposite from crossing the others. The very last seat at the table, an old gentleman with sorry physique, set face, and curious. This is my first time meeting him. I had only just been introduced to him, but it seems he's grandfather's personal doctor, a man called Nanjo. Let's check out Nanjo's character profile. Attending physician Nanjo. Kenzo's attending physician in a long time firm. He once ran a hospital in Najima, but he turned it over to his son now enjoys his old age in peace. Like Kenzo's constant suspicion of extraordinary high Nanjo is one of the very few people he trusts. Thanks to Nanjo's big-hearted nature, he has been able to continue his friendship with Kenzo despite the latter's tendency to fly into a rage at the slightest provocation. Wow. True friendship. I already used to own a huge clinic on that nearby island in Najima, but he turned it over to his son, began living a life of leisure in his old age. We just read that. He had known grandfather since the very beginning when the mansion was first constructed on this island, and had built up a relationship over several decades. I thought at first that the two of them might have gotten to know each other through grandfather's suspicious hobbies, but it seems he was actually grandfather's chess partner. You see, that kind of hobby seems very like our grandfather, what with his love of all things Western. I'm just probably the only person who could enter Rockin' Jim despite being neither a family member nor a servant. He looked like a calm old gentleman as you listened to the discussion between Kiria and the other woman who sat near to him. Considering how long he stayed by the side of our short-tempered grandfather, his generous heart was probably nothing to laugh at. Still, even if he was a family doctor, having anyone outside the Ushiromiya family attend the family conference was a little odd. It made me think that grandfather's condition might have worsened so much it'd be a major topic of discussion at today's conference. After all, George said something like that just a second ago. Something about how we've been getting continuous reports since around last year that grandfather didn't have long to live. It's nasty to think about, but consider how rich grandfather is. At the time of his death, the 12 will certainly be released, probably along with a fair share of our parents' stomach acid, and it'll lead to ulcers for everyone. I'm starting to lose my voice. After all, this sort of thing just gets messier when there's more wealth to be divided. There's a good chance they'll be talking about stuff like that at the family conference, so it's not like it's got anything to do with us kids. Finally, even though he hasn't shown up, let me introduce our grandfather. The person who should be sitting on Incipia's chair is Ushiromiya Kenzo. He really sucks. Everyone else in the family has these weird names, but he's got this perfectly normal one himself. If only his name were written Kenzo, but he let us call him Goldsmith or something. I totally freak out. As you can probably guess by now, he's a frightening person with an extremely short temper. I'm one of his grandchildren, not his son. I haven't seen him since elementary school. Thanks to that, I have no memory of being beaten myself. My parents were apparently raised with an iron fist. The earlier conversation between my dad and Uncle Cross about who should go convince grandfather to come down seems pretty darn funny once you know their background. You can't really tell grandfather's story without covering that pivotal event back before the show aired, 1926 to 1989. Though the Meiji, 1868 to 1912, and the Taisho, 1912 to 1926 eras, the Ushiromiya family was great and prosperous. They owned several spinning mills, making them rich enough to just double overlapping every day as the money kept rolling in. Incidentally, grandfather was a member of the Branch family. He had pretty much nothing to do with the main family. Not only was he way down the list of people who could inherit the headship, but he had hardly any contact with the glamorous main family. However, during the Great Kanto earthquake in the year Taisho 12, 1923, the mansion owned by the Ushiromiya family of Odawara was flattened. The spinning mills in Tokyo were all burned down in a huge fire, and the Ushiromiya family lost most of its wealth and family members in an instant. So once they started trying to figure out who the successor to the Ushiromiya family should be, they apparently found no one remaining except Kenzo and his Branch family. In Kenzo's later reminiscence, he referred to this as good fortune so great that it overturned fate. With that, grandfather's born everyday life did a 180. He was entrusted to revive the dying Ushiromiya family, which had lost nearly all of its wealth. However, just because he had been entrusted with this task didn't mean he couldn't accomplish it. Apparently, those around him weren't really expecting much. However, this is when grandfather began displaying his extraordinary talent and good luck. Grandfather used all the family's remaining wealth, as well as everything from the hair on his head to his toenails, as collateral in order to borrow a massive amount of money. Once he built up a gigantic war chest, he immediately invested in businesses. It was like someone tumbling down a hill on a bike without any brakes, and then jumping onto a neighboring bike and then another one. Just like some crazy street performance. I bet everyone thought grandfather had no business ability whatsoever. However, after several miracles and turns of good luck, with coincidences piling up and every chance taken advantage of, he was suddenly in control of powerful connections with the occupying forces. At that time, MacArthur and the GHQ were the ultimate authority in Japan. Grandfather, in a twinkle of an eye, began succeeding in business under the protection of the occupying forces, quickly becoming very rich. By this point, it's probably safe to say that information did not look saved the day. He must have made some seriously deep connections with the occupying forces. Grandfather knew beforehand about the emergency demands that would be made for the Korean War. There was more than that. He must have predicted those emergency demands from the very beginning when he started investing his money. The history books make it sound like all of Japan made a large profit off of the emergency demands during the Korean War, but that isn't actually true. Only a very limited number of the super rich played the money game and made an easy profit. Most of the citizens remained poor. In other words, grandfather was a member of this extremely lucky group of winners. I'm pretty sure this all happened during the show 25, 1950 or so. The Great Kanto earthquake happened in Taishu 1924, so that means grandfather was able to ride the near-dead Ushiromiya family in only about 20 years to a level even higher than it had ever been before. With that, you'd think he revived the main family Odawara, but for some reason he went and did something as crazy as buying an entire small island in the Izu archipelago. Buying an entire island is not something you can ordinarily do today. However, grandfather was clever. He contracted the GHQ and applied for the establishment of a marine resource base. He acquired this island as a business property and then tossed that project aside and claimed it as his own plot of land. After the war, there were prevention measures against food shortages, and the sponsorship of the GHQ meant that nobody could oppose them. From what I've heard, the Tokyo metropolis of that day offered this land to him practically for free. Later, Tokyo made difficulties by telling Kinza to return the land, but the pushy GHQ intervened. Anyway, it seems under the table bribes did their work well, and then the city gave up in frustration. Grandfather, with considerable skill and good luck, managed to weather the stormy seas of that period, obtaining a vast fortune in his own island. Of course, it probably wasn't all luck. He was successful in all things Western, which helped him cultivate his English skills. He was able to use this to his advantage and sink his teeth into the GHQ. A mansion was built in the island soon after. This mansion, in fact, grandfather, with his love of the Western style, made this once uninhabited island a canvas upon which he could realize his dreams to his heart's content. He now had the Western mansion of his dreams overflowing with emotion and atmosphere, and a beautiful garden featuring all sorts of roses. And he had a private beach where nobody other than himself would ever be permitted to leave a footprint. This would be a dream come true for any boy. After that, he made good use of his huge fortune, becoming a large stockholder in the extremely stable iron and steel industry, and was able to live an easy and comfortable life just using the dividends. Well, he's just that incredible. This kind of person usually has the ability to foresee and predict the future, or at least that is how they portrayed after the fact. But grandfather denies all that, repeatedly saying that he was simply blessed with extraordinary luck. Anyway, even a lord like that can't help but grow increasingly eccentric when locked up alone on an island where all his dreams are made real. Everyone knows that he's had a Western obsession from the start, but none of our parents really know when his bizarre black magic hobby began. Did his love of black magic begin way back when he became fascinated with everything Western? Or did his miraculous stretch of good luck while reviving his family cause him to feel a mysterious power in himself? At some point, grandfather began to make the research of black magic his life's work. He filled his day up with suspicious books, chemicals, and magical items as he became increasingly bizarre. From what I've heard, those around him warmly, watched over him, figuring that someone who had achieved success in life had a right to do as he pleased, but there's no way that's true. They were probably just creeped out, thinking that's disgusting. I don't want to get involved. Anyway, that agitated period was an age of big gambles with both opportunities and risk. Let's say grandfather was born in this time period. He would have had no opportunities and would probably have advanced like anticipates from mandatory education to college at a leisurely pace, never becoming more than an average salaryman. If that happened, he'd probably have sat somewhere happily talking about his boss's back. No, not in a fancy dining hall like this, more like at a table in some bar. Then again, I bet this family conference would be a whole lot more relaxing if that were the case. He really was an extraordinary person. Okay, that's enough about the old geezer. More importantly, let's talk about this incredible lunch.
前菜の刺身のサラダで俺はすでに確信してたね。幸田さんは大したシェフだぜ。しかも魚は近海で取れたやつだろ。スーパーの刺身とはわけが違ったぜ。
おいおいよせよバトラー、育ちがバレちまうだろうが。
Everyone let out a big laugh. Damn it, you say that even though you love these cheap pubs.
僕も仕事の都合で珍しいところで食事をすることもあるけど、それらと比べてもこれはかなりのものだよ。合田さんは多分その道じゃ少しは知られた人だったんじゃないかな。
よくは知らねえんだけどよ。老舗ホテルでのれん分けだか派閥の分裂だかややこしいことがあってよ。 そのトラブルで辞めざるを得なくなっちまったんだってさ。それでその時偶然おふくろが使用人の求人を出してたわけなんだよ。
Those girls are removed the empty plates. He began to recount his own bumpy past without losing his smile.
世の中というのは難しいものです。しかしそのおかげでこうして今日後宮家で再び料理人として腕を振るう機会を賜ることができました。大勢の方の笑顔も嬉しいですが、お仕えすると決めた限られた方々にだけ喜んでいただくために繊細なお仕事ができるのもとても楽しいことでございます。これもすべて機会をくださった奥様のおかげです。
Yosan respectfully bowed his head towards Aunt Natsui.
応募のあった中でゴーダが一番腕が良かったからです。客観的判断に基づくもので市場はありませんので感謝には及びません。
Dang, why does Aunt Natsui always have to sound so indifferent? If only she spoke with a bit more kindness, she might yet leave a different impression. Shinji and Kumasan entered from the hallway with a serving cart.
失礼いたします。
それでは本日のデザートに移らせていただきます。
Yosan and the others laid the beautifully adorned dessert out in front of us all. I guess it's true when they say you have another stomach for dessert. I thought I already filled up on delicious food, but as soon as I laid eyes on that dessert, my stomach started yelling more. I don't know much about desserts, but this looked really good. A white pudding-like substance was garnished with 2 shades of red sauce, and elegant rose petals adorned the dish. Normally during a high-class meal like this, you were supposed to wait for the chef to extol the virtues of this particular meal before eating. However, Maria was completely indifferent to strict rules like that, so she got excited by this beautiful and delicious-looking dessert, jumping into the fray as soon as it was placed before her. Aunt Reza scolded her, calling it bad manners, but George responded by saying, Now, it's okay.
こっちの酸っぱい。こっちの酸っぱい。バトラ、こっちのは外れ。
Yuri exclaimed as she sampled the 2 colored sauces.
なんだと？当たりと外れがあるのかよ。よし、俺も味見をしてやるぜ。
Apparently one sauce was sweet and the other sour. Despite it being bad manners, I also stuck my little finger in and looked at. Whoa, one of the sauces was sour enough to make you pucker up. If it were yellow, I'd expect lemon, but I couldn't guess what kind of sourness would be red. I decided to ask Shannon, who was putting away the serving cart behind us.
シャノンちゃん、この酸っぱいのは何のソースだい？
Shannon hesitated. Maybe her job was just to set the table, so she doesn't really know. Still, even considering that, she seemed pretty stressed. Maybe I shouldn't have asked. Or did they use some ingredient that we'd be better off not knowing about? Well, I didn't see he made a gesture that seemed to indicate an oncoming headache. Kumasawa-san, who was sitting at the table at the opposite seat, began to chuckle.
何の材料を使っていると思いますか？驚きますよ。
全然わかんねえぜ。というか、熊沢のばあさんがそういう笑い方すると不気味でならねえぜ。で、何なんだよ、正体は。
内緒ですよ。お耳を拝借。
Kumasawa-san leaned across from the other side of the table. I leaned forward myself when she asked. Their interest caught Jessica, George, Aniki, and of course Maria, who also put their ears closer.
この酸っぱいのはですね、実はお魚のサバの絞り汁ですよ。
Fish oil.
サバ？
God, that's crazy, we all thought, horrified. Only Maria accepted it, nodding sagely.
ほう、サバは酸っぱいよ。絞ったらこうなる。
When Marty started clamoring that Naku Koro over sour, the adults weren't able to contain their laughter.
違うわよ。酸っぱいのはしめ鯖でしょ。
Only at reserve face whispered to Mario that mackerel is sour only once prepared as shimesaba. Ah, now I totally remember. Kumasawa-san was always like this, wasn't she? I think I remember her tricking me too in all sorts of ways when I was young. The most lethal I'd gotten being that one. Those flimsy black things in Chinese dishes. They're kikurage mushrooms. She told me they were penguin meat, and I went all around school like a smartass, telling everyone, didn't I?
熊沢のばあちゃん、相変わらずだな。マリアが信じちゃうだろ。
冗談ですよ。今からゴーダさんがソースの正体を教えてくれますからね。
Gotta looked a little put off about his masterpiece being laughed at for such a bizarre reason, but after clearing his throat once, he introduced the dessert to us.
それではデザートのご説明をさせていただきます。本日はご来賓の皆様が大層お気に入りでございましたバラの庭園にちなみまして、パンナコッタをローズガーデン風に仕上げてみました。散らしてございますバラの花びらは当家の庭園より先ほど採取してきたものでございます。ソースはストロベリーとローズヒップの2色の赤をご用意しました。ストロベリーの甘味とローズヒップの酸味を交互にお楽しみになってください。なお花びらは観賞用となっておりますので、避けてからお召し上がりくださいませ。それではどうぞお楽しみください。
Whoa, man, I almost want to applaud before eating. Just like with medicine, reading the detailed description first seems to make it work a whole lot better. As Ghost elaborated on the details of this dessert, it started to feel even more appetizing. Seriously, should you call him subtle or just talented? The dessert was probably planned from the beginning, but taking the hint when we all stopped in front of the rose garden earlier today, he displayed an incredible and timely awareness by just adding a few rose petals from that garden. This combination of sweet and sour is also exquisite. If it was just sweet, you'd just get used to it and bored halfway there. But if you reach the sour sauce at that point, you'd get a really vivid taste. And then once you return to the sweet sauce, all of the sourness in your mouth would be replaced with enjoyable sweetness. I'm sure everyone else felt the same way. Every time Goda-san passed by one of our seats, someone praised the taste in his presentation.
いかがですか、奥様。
相変わらず見事です。お客様をおもてなしするに値します。
恐れ入ります。奥様、ご存知ですか？ローズヒップには頭痛に効く効果もあるそうですよ。奥様に特にお気に入りいただけるかと思い、特別にご用意させていただきました。
そう、ありがとう。
ほら言ったでしょ、夏日姉さん。ローズヒップは頭痛に効くって。
みたいね。聞くといいんだけど。
合田さん、あんたには惚れるで。なあ、後であんたの待遇を聞かせてや。無理ならあんたの欲しい年収指立ててくれるだけでもええんやで。あんたの腕がこの島だけで独占されとるのは人類の食文化に対する冒涜や。その腕わしの会社で振るってお客の皆さんを喜ばせてみる気はないかのう。
秀吉さん、うちのゴーダを引き抜かれるのですか？これは困った。ゴーダの待遇をもっと良くしないと引き抜かれてしまいそうだ。
そうした方がいいわね。じゃないと引き抜かれて3食が熊沢さんのサバ料理にされちゃうわよ。
That sounds painful.
これは手厳しゅうございます。
Eating mackerel for 3 days. Well, actually, 3 meals a day, for every day. God, that'd be torture.
かり根に持たれてしまいまして。
Everyone let out a huge laugh. According to Jessica, Kumasawa-san's mackerel jokes were a running gag that her parents had long since gotten used to. Kumasawa-san often claimed that mackerels had precious nutritional value which could slow aging, make people smarter and more. Supposedly while it couldn't stop the outward signs of aging, it would prevent aging on the inside. Since she was still spirited enough to tell these kinds of jokes at her age, there must be something to that theory.
それでは失礼いたします。夕食にはふるってたくさんのサバ料理をお召し上がりいただきますので、どうぞご期待くださいませね。
期待してるよ。今晩はしめ鯖でキュッとしゃれ込みたいぜ。
それは素敵ね。ついでに日本酒の美味しいのも出てこないかしら。
ええ、ございますよ。六軒島名物のサバ焼酎なるものがございまして。
Kumasawa-san, together with Shin bowed and pushed the servant cart away. It was pretty funny to watch Koto-san, who looked like his show had totally been stolen, displaying a serious voice that he would be having calf steak for dinner.
熊沢さん、さっきはありがとうございました。
As she pushed the serving cart, Shannon bowed her head very deeply.
なんもお礼を言われることなんてありません。
Kumasawa-san. Kumasawa may have played dumb, but she had obviously understood and saved Shannon in the nick of time. Back when Butler asked about dessert, Shannon had unfortunately hesitated. There may have been several ways to dodge the question, but all of them would have required some quick wits. Shannon, who hesitated when hard-pressed for a response, was always suffering because of the small weakness. If only Shannon had a little of the craftiness needed to cleverly shake off a mistake like Goda, her life would have been a bit easier. The fact that she could perform other tasks flawlessly made this weakness even more unfortunate. However, there were some who understood Shannon's honest nature and inability to gloss over a mistake and draw attention away from it. That was why Kumasawa had smoothly come to her rescue.
さっき源氏さんが午後のシフトに変更があるとおっしゃってましたよ。確かシャノンさんは夕方までお休みがもらえたと思いました。羨ましい。
すみません。シフト表を確認していませんでした。
そうそう。オーブンでこれからちょっとサバを焼こうと思ってるんですよ。できたらお休みの前にちょっと手伝ってくれると嬉しいですね。
はい。喜んでお手伝いさせていただきます。
To Shannon, Kumasawa was like a mother among the servants. Yeah, she does seem like a mother to all the servants. The dining hall needed to be cleaned up, so we were chased out. Instead, tea was being served in the parlor. Apparently, they prepared the black tea that Aunt Rosa had brought for Aunt Natsui. Maria said she also wanted to have some black tea, but my old bastard said she couldn't and told us children to go play outside.
バトラ君、みんなで表に散歩に行かないかい？
バラでも見に行ったらええ。でも天気には十分注意するんやで。空はまだ明るいが、天気予報はふるふると繰り返しちょる。
マリアは海がいい。
あら素敵じゃない。砂浜で遊ぶなんて普段はなかなかできないものね。
そっか。よし、じゃあみんなで浜辺でも行こうぜ。
行こう。マリア、服を濡らさないようにするのよ。靴もよ。濡らさ
ない。素直で可愛い。バトラ君、マリアちゃんの面倒ちゃんと見てあげてね。
おうよ、任せろ。ほう、 お前も切り絵に頼まれると素直で可愛いじゃねえか。たまには俺の言うことも素直に聞いてみろよ。
へっ、まっぴらごめんだぜ。行こうぜみんな。ほらほら。
The children flew out of the parlor. They were replaced by Genji, who pushed the serving cart in and prepared to serve the tea. The parlor was filled with a sublime aroma which delighted everyone while they waited to sate their thirst.
ルドルフのところは家族仲がいいじゃないか。良いことだ。
よせよ。兄貴のところには負けるぜ。
そうよ。ジェシカちゃん、本当に可愛らしく育ったじゃない。これも夏日姉さんの教育の賜物ね。
どうも。
And so he answered coldly. The conversation broke off then, and the parlor fell silent. Maybe Hideyoshi couldn't bear the silence because he broke it himself with an exaggerated gesture.
しかし成長は早いもんやで。いつまでも子供だと思っとったが、図体はみるみるでかくなり、いつの間にか大人の仲間入りや。バトラ君なんか見違えたで。
体は大きくなりましたけど、まだ子供です。うちの主人も未だに子供ですけれど。
子供と大人の境ってどこなのかしらね。私未だに大人になったって自覚が持てない。
情けないじゃないか。一児の母の言うことではない。
そうね。私たちももう子供じゃない。大人同士よ。だから感情的にならず、知的な会話をしたいわね。
When Neva smiled with sharp sarcasm, everyone seemed to get more tense. It felt as though that pleasant tea aroma had been tossed out the window.
知的な会話なら昔からいつも心がけているじゃないか。お前の嫌味は時に的を外している。昔から変わらない。
昔からいつもですって？あらあら、その言葉をきれいに放送して何十年か前のこの部屋に届けてあげたいわね。ねえローザ。
Rosa gave a vague smile. She knew that whether she agreed or disagreed, she earned the displeasure of one of her siblings. It was a bit of worldly wisdom that had been essential for someone growing up as the youngest sibling.
よせよ姉貴。ガキどもがいない間に本題に入ろうじゃねえか。それこそ知的な話よ。
As Rudolph glanced over the faces of all present, some let out a slight sigh and some let out a small look of resignation cross their face. They were approaching their unavoidable true agenda.
去年の時点で余命3ヶ月だったんだ。
Wow, their demeanors took a 180. Seems like they were all pretending.
ってことは、すでにマイナス9ヶ月ってことじゃねえか。
Negative 9 months left.
いつお迎えが慌ててすっ飛んでくるかもわからねえ状態ってことだぜ。
当主様は今でも健在でおられます。このような不穏当な話を日も明るいうちからなさろうとするなど、ルドルフさんの正気を疑わざるを得ません。
だがな、夏日さん、こういうしょっぱい話はいざことがあってからじゃ遅いんや。今が元気だからこそ余裕あるうちにしとくもんなんやで。これも財産のエチケットみたいなもんや。
諸君の関心は親父殿のようじゃないか。南條先生、あなたから説明してくださいませんか。彼らもそれをお望みらしい。
Najo, who had been standing by the window and staring out at the rose garden, let out a small cough and realized that he was being called.
南條先生、お父様の具合はどんな感じなんですか？
まずはじめに、私が去年申し上げました余命3ヶ月という言葉が一人歩きをしているようですので、その訂正からいたします。
言われずともわかるわ。余命というのはあくまでも見込みであって約束ではないとおっしゃられるのよね。
さようです。ですから皆さんからたびたびお尋ねを受けますが、いつ亡くなるのかということは決して断言できないことなのです。人の命は体と心に支えられております。体が弱れば危うくもなりますが、それを補う心の強さがあれば小康状態を維持することもあるのです。
体はともかくお心はまだしっかりしていて意気健康でいらっしゃれるということですね。
キリエ、すまんがしばらく黙っててくれ。
ごめんなさい。
さようです。金蔵さんの体はすっかり病魔に蝕まれております。ましてやあのような強いお酒をたしなまれ続けてはとても。
崖っぷちなのも酒のせい、流らえてるのも酒のせいか。酒豪の親父らしいね。
それで先生、もちろん見込みで結構なんですけども、お父様来年の今日まではさすがにどうかしら。
当主様に対してあまりに無礼な質問です。
Natsui jumped on Eva, not even bothering to hide her astonished expression. Eva stared back daringly, but he, as she realized what was going on, and tried to smooth things over with a forced smile.
ああ、夏井さん、カニーナ。エヴァ、お前も少し言葉を選ばんか。
ごめんなさい。お父様の容体が気になって仕方なかったもので。
そうですか。それは気づきませんでした。
南條先生、聞かせてやってください。父親の寿命を気遣う娘の麗しい家族愛じゃないですか。
Grass laughed sarcastically, and Eva, smiling sweetly, returned an identical chuckle.
来年までお元気かという質問ですが、
God, they're like vultures.
医者の私としてはとても難しい。この小康状態がまだしばらくは続くようにも思いますし、何らかの発作が来ればその時にはどうしようもないかもしれません。何しろ六軒島は孤島です。すぐに救急車が飛んでこれるわけではありません。本来ならば今度のしかるべき大病院に入院していただきたいところなのですが、親父殿は高尚な研究を中断されたくないと仰せだ。去年無理に連れ出そうとしたのがあだになったらしい。外へ出れば病院に閉じ込められてしまうのではないかとひどくお疑いになられていてな。すっかりこのざまなのだよ。
南條先生の診察は受けておられるの？
親父殿は南條先生には心を許しておられる。機嫌が良ければ診察も受けられるようだがね。容体を見はするが、薬を勧めようとも入院を勧めようとも聞き入れてくれん。本当に見るだけですがな。
お医者嫌いの方もおるもんや。しかし困ったもんだのう。
Naja sighed deeply. The purpose of an examination is to determine what medical treatment would be appropriate. Receiving an examination and not following the advice given makes the whole thing pointless.
つまりおさらいすると、相変わらず余命は3ヶ月。瀕死のまま。あとどれだけ長らえるか 見当もつかねえってことだ。
ルドルフさん、言葉を少し慎まれてはいかがですか？
ああ、すまんね。昔からこういう口の利き方なんだ。勘弁してくれ。
南條先生のご意見は分かりました。クラウス兄さんから見てどうなの？
実を言うと南條先生とは異なる意見でね。とても余命3ヶ月の重病人とは思えないというのが本心だ。怒鳴り声は相変わらず健在で、いつぶん殴られるかとヒヤヒヤしっぱなしだよ。長男にだけ親父の世話を押し付けるのは実にフェアではないね。
来世では俺より後に生まれろよ。さて、話を戻そうぜ。そんなわけで、公正中立なお医者の先生の見解じゃ、いつお隠れになっちまってもおかしくない状態だ。兄貴には悪いが、ここは専門家の意見を採用させてもらうぜ。となりゃ、決して親父の財産を話し合うことは時期尚早ではないってことさ。
お父様の個人資産はおそらく数百億にも届くでしょうね。でもそれは綺麗な現金で揃ってるわけじゃないわ。お誕生会のケーキみたいに綺麗にナイフが入ってカットできるほど単純じゃないでしょ。
姉貴の例えは面白いな。そうさ。ケーキの上にはイチゴやらチョコの家やらが乗ってて、綺麗に等分するのが難しいことだってあるだろう。それを加味してどういう風にナイフを入れるのか先に相談しておくのは大切なことだと思うぜ。
それを当主様が存命のうちからさも他界なされたかのように声高に議論される皆さんの気が知れません。
あら、必要な話よ。だって遺産相続はその時点で直ちに行われなきゃならないものよ。ましてや栄光ある後宮家の財産は莫大。事前に入念な相談が必要なことはお分かりでしょうが、当家の資産はあなたのご実家とは大違いなんだから。
失礼な。私の実家は関係ありません。
That's who responding like they're in a low voice, and the already dark atmosphere grew even more hostile.
予算買えば。
That's who looks like she's about to fly into a rage.
夏木さん、堪忍な。口が悪いのは許したってな。
She tried to smooth things over by glancing at both with a forced smile, but only resulted in making the hostility between Evan and Natsu even more intense.
これ以上はお邪魔なようですな。失礼させていただきましょう。
Ninja rose from his seat next to the parlor. To an outsider, it may have seemed like a normal act of courtesy, but his back was watched by several glances envious of his ability to escape. After the doctor had exited and his footsteps had disappeared into the distance, recrossed his legs.
つまりお前たちの言い分はこうかね。親父殿の余命は短い。遺産分配について早急かつ具体的な協議に入りたい。何を焦っているのかね。確かにお前たちの言う通り、後宮家の財産を算定し分配するのは簡単なことではないだろう。なればじっくりと算定すべきじゃないのかね。お前たちは今晩のうちにもケーキを切り分けたいと焦っているように見える。そうだろう、ローザ。何を焦ることがあるのかね。
焦ってるわけじゃない。でも兄弟の間での取り決めは必要。それはいつでもいいことだけれども、お父様の具合が悪くなっていてその日が近づいているというなら、先に話だけしておいてもそれは請求とは言わないと思うし。
Rosa shot a glance at Evan Rudolph. As the youngest one of the family, it was hard for her to be cross-examined by the eldest.
ほう、それはお前の本心かね。 兄弟で一番素直で綺麗な心を持っていたお前がそんなことを言い出すとは思えんね。そこの二人に吹き込まれたんじゃないのかね。
よせよ兄貴、ローザだって兄弟だぜ。親父の遺産に公平な権利がある。関心を持つのは当然じゃねえか。親父だっていつかは必ず死ぬし、それは遠い未来の話でもない。むしろ兄貴が悠長すぎるくらいさ。まるで遺産分配から話をそらしたくて仕方がないように見えるぜ。
それはどういう意味ですか？主人にやましいところがあるとおっしゃいたいのですか？
まあ夏日さん、話は聞いておくなはれ。
兄さん、今は大変強気だそうじゃない？そうよね。去年以降空前の好景気で円は上がる一方、ドルが100円に至るのだって夢物語じゃなさそうよ。それに与党は来年頃に保養地整備法を成立させようっていうじゃない。今や日本中のリゾート開発会社がどれだけ軍資金を集められるかって奔走してるところよ。
詳しいじゃないか。これから日本には空前の好景気が訪れる。親父殿が後ろ宮家を再興した時と同じくらいの大規模な需要拡大の時代がね。日本国民は死に物狂いで働き、高度経済成長を実現して世界で一番豊かな国民となり、我が世の春を謳歌するようになった。国民の消費は増大し、それを回収できる施設があぶく銭を手にする時代になったのだよ。今や国民のニーズは3種の電化製品ではない。スキー場、ゴルフ場、総合プール、リゾートホテルにテーマパーク。数年前に開業したデルゼニーランドには行ったかね。素晴らしい遊園地じゃないか。
Is that like a spin-off of Disneyland?
あそこでは大人も童心に帰り家族で楽しむことができるんだ。かつて家族を顧みずに滅私奉公することだけが美徳だった時代はもはや終わろうとしている。我々は世界で一番豊かな国民としてようやくそれを享受できるようになったのだよ。
クラウス兄さんの読みは大したもんや。わしも数年前に聞いた時はそんなアホなと思ったわ。でもな、 G5 のプラザ合意聞いてから変わったんや。円はみるみる強くなり、地価はこれから天井知らずに上がるやろ。日本が世界経済の中心になる日も遠くはない。兄さんは時代を見る目のあるお人や。それだけは間違いないで。
秀吉兄さんに同じだ。兄貴は10年越しで時代を読めてるよ。その嗅覚は親父譲りだろうな。大したもんだぜ。だが親父と違ってちょいと見通しのタイミングを読み違っちまったところはあるよな。
兄さんは必ず日本が好景気を迎えると信じてあちこちにリゾート計画を起こし、そのほとんどで失敗し続けたわ。兄さんの読み通りの時代は確かに訪れつつあるけど、その時期を読むことには失敗したわね。早すぎたのよ。そして焦って清算して結局は傷口を広げたわ。本当に嗅覚が当てになって好景気が訪れることを読めていたなら清算するわけない。これって兄さんが自分で自分の才能を信じてない証拠じゃないの？
失礼な。主人を侮辱するつもりですか？
The series forward increased as she rose from the sofa. Eva, paying this new heed, stared at Carlos with a confident smile. Carlos, who also maintained his confident appearance, told Natsui to sit down.
よさないか夏日。昔からこういう言い方しかできないやつだ。少し落ち着きなさい。また頭痛に触る。
兄さんに才能がない証拠はだって兄さんこの島をリゾート化するって張り切ってたじゃない、素敵なリゾートホテルも建てて庭園もきれいに整備して、私は素人だから分かりかねるけど相当のお金を使ったんでしょう。
だから何だというのですか。主人の事業はあなたとは関係ありません。
いや、そいつは違うぜ、夏日さん。六軒島は兄貴のものじゃない。
belongs to the entire Ushiromiya family.
親父のものだ。もちろん建てたホテルは兄貴のものだぜ。なんなら俺たちは今夜の宿泊料を払ってやってもいいさ。な、ローザ。
それはまあ持ち合わせで足りるなら。
リゾート化できればこの島の資産価値は上がる。支出がかさんだことは事実だが、未来に大きな収穫を期待できる。そうなれば結果的にお前たちにとっても有益なはずじゃないか。
それはわかるわよ。この島の価値が上がればそれを遺産分配する時の私たちの取り分も増えるもの。もちろん島や屋敷を4分の1ずつ切り取れとは言わないわ。それを算定したお金で解決してくれればいいだけの話よ。
そこまで分かっているなら私の事業に何の不満があるんだね。
不満じゃねえさ、不安なのさ。第一兄貴、あのホテルいつになったら開業するんだ。このままじゃ俺たちの手垢だらけになっちまうぜ。
そうよ、大切な商売道具でしょ。確かに開業するまでずっと鍵をかけておくわけにもいかないわよね。少しは使って風通しを良くしないと建物は傷んじゃうもの。でも私たちが年に一度泊まるだけのゲストハウスって言うんじゃちょっと豪勢すぎやしないかしらねえローザ。
そうね、あんなに素敵ならオープンしたらさぞや人気が出るでしょうね。
ああ、あなたが前に言ってたホテルってゲストハウスのことだったのね。
立派なもんだろう。ローザの言う通りオープンできたら人気が出るだろうよ。
The lodge they had been guided to wasn't originally intended to serve as a guest house. It was originally constructed as a resort hotel. However, even though it was built 2 years previously, there was still absolutely no prospect of it opening.
兄さんのいつもの事業と同じよ。着目や企画はご立派。そしていつも途中で立ち行かなくなって何も回収できずに終わる。
この島をただ住むだけにしか使わないのはもったいないって兄貴の着眼は立派さ。そしてリゾート化してマリンスポーツやらフィッシングやらハネムーンやらを誘致して盛り上げようってのはなかなかいい絵だったと思うぜ。俺だって長男だったならこの島を何かに有効利用できないかと頭をひねったに違いないさ。
でももう出来上がってから2年も経つのよ。2年経って未だに開業のめどはつかないの？任せてる管理会社はどこ？
失敬な。それは主人の手落ちではありません。主人の仕事を請け負う会社間でトラブルが生じているだけで、うちはあくまでも被害者です。
しかしな、クラウス兄さんが任せてる例のとこ、あまりええ噂は聞かんで。
はっきり言ってあげなさいよ。不払い横領トラブルで計画が空中分解しちゃったって話、私たちの耳に届かないとでも思ってる？
Sounds like Cross was scammed.
裏も取れてるんだから。
何の裏だか存じませんが、事実無根です。 観光業への新規参入には方々への根回しが必要になります。相手が信用に足りるかを測ることも大事です。それに手間取っているだけに過ぎません。
ホテルの完成が早すぎて勇み足になったことは認めよう。だが維持費がかかってるわけじゃない。やがて大きな意味を持つ布石だ。
嘘つけよ。生産したくても売れないだけだろ。観光ルートの確立してない何もない離島にやたら豪華なホテルなんて買い手がつくわけもねえさ。それに事業に集めた融資はどうなってんだよ。
維持費はかからんでも返せん借金は膨らむ一方や。すまんがクラウス兄さん、この島の開発計画の話ちょいと調べさせてもろたんや。正直こっちもええ話は聞かへんのや。
秀吉さん、確かに今の財政状況だけを見たらそういう印象を持たれるかもしれない。だがこれは先行投資なのだよ。その読みを誤り、これまでに多くの負債を生んでしまったことは認めざるを得ない。だがようやく時代が私に追いついた。これまでに失った分はすぐに取り戻せる。いや、それどころかこれまでの投資だってやがては私のもとに戻ってくる。そう例えるなら、放った稚魚が鮭となり肥えて帰ってくるようにね。
それは認めるで。これからリゾート業界は空前の好景気を迎えるやろ。これまでの負債を埋められるほどかは分からんが。だがな、クラウス兄さん、これまで散々負け続けた兄さんがどこから軍資金を調達したっていうんや。それも半端ない軍資金や。あれだけの穴を埋められる軍資金やで。
秀吉さんは何をおっしゃいたいのですか？
ああ、夏樹さん、ほんま怒らんといてえな。わしらも調べたんや。これまで負け戦続きのクラウス兄さんに最近の強気な莫大投資を支えられるほどの融資を誰ができたんか調べたんや。
結果いねえんだよ。弱り目と逆に張るのがマネールーレットの鉄則だ。兄貴はこの界隈じゃちょいと知られた弱り目さ。確かに時代は好景気を迎えようとしているが、これまでの兄貴の失敗等を天秤にかけて、その上で融資に値すると思う連中がいるのかって言ったら誰もいなかったのさ。
ならね、そのお金をってことになるのよ。
ほう、興味深い話じゃないか。それで
あなた、このような暴言をいつまで放置されるつもりですか？
座れよ、夏日さん。単刀直入に言おう。兄貴は親父の個人資産を自分の事業に流用してる。これはほぼ間違いねえ。これが俺たちの誤解だってんなら、どうかぜひそれを解いてもらいたいもんさ。
ルドルフ、流用なんてもんじゃないわよ。これは横領よ。刑事告発できる立派な犯罪なんだから。
無礼極まりない。仮にも後ろ宮本家跡継ぎの後ろ宮クラウスに向かって信じられない暴言です。
暴言じゃないわよ。図星でしょ。なんとか事業を成功させてこれまでの損失を埋めたいんだけど、その穴は広がっていく一方、博打の穴をさらに大きく張った博打で埋めたいだけよ。その軍資金がすぐ近くにあったなら手をつけるのは道理。はっきり言うわ。兄さんがしているのは横領よ。
Exactly.
お父様に対する裏切りよ。 しかるべき決着がついた後には司法に委ねることになるでしょうね。そんな輩に後ろ宮本家跡継ぎを名乗らせるとお思い？
言うにこと書いて、当主様への裏切りとは聞き捨てがたい。この栄光ある後宮家の敷居をまたぐ資格はもはやあなたにはありません。即刻ここを出て行きなさい。さあ、ほら。
Natsui had already reached the limits of her anger, shouted at Eva in a rage. She then pointed alternately at Eva in the hallway and demanding that she leave. Eva took out a folding fan and fanned herself with it, glaring maliciously at Natsui, as though silently daring her to repeat what she said. However, her mouth was still smiling, curved in the shape of a crescent moon, and the unpleasant silence rose a gulp.
ねえ、夏日姉さん、誰に向かってそんな口をお聞きなの？
無礼極まりない主人の妹に対してです。これ以上は私も本家の台所を預かる者として聞き捨てなりません。
台所を預かる？黙るがいい。この名ばかり女房が。
Eva followed the fan and snapped. With a snap and rose to her feet energetically. Compared to the elegance and playfulness she'd shown until a second ago, she was now unimaginably aggressive.
バカバカしい。お前が下がりなさい。この後ろ宮エヴァに。当主様の左肩を許されている後宮家序列第3位のこのエヴァに下がれと？身の程を知りなさい。そしてお前のそのみすぼらしい姿を鏡に映してみるがいい。お前の服のどこに翼が、どこに片翼のわしが許されているのか。貴様など後宮家の跡継ぎを残すためだけの存在じゃないの。身の程をわきまえるがいい、このゲス女が。
Eva's face twitched and stood hideously as her words gouged in Natsu's heart like talons wrenching at it. There were 100 ways Natsui wanted to respond. However, her anger and sorrow crushed her throat, and none of those words managed to make it to her mouth. Her anger had nowhere to go and became a single hot tear that slowly dripped down.
何か言い返したいならどうぞ言い返しなさいよ。
It was a creepy smile.
ほら。
Eva's face faced her with a provocative gaze. However, Natsui could do nothing but tremble, her clenched fist quivering. Cross quietly broke that powder-caked tension.
夏日、席を外しなさい。頭を冷やすといい。
Natsui, resenting the fact that her husband had not come to her aid, shifted the focus of her attack.
あなたはさっきから何を言われているのか分かってるんですか？この人たちは言うにこと書いてあなたのことを、私たちが後宮家の栄光を守り、お父様からそれを受け継ぐため日々高潔であろうとする全ての努力をないがしろにして踏みにじる、なんという聞きがたい暴言。あなたもあなたです。どうして言い返さないんですか？あなたが言い返さないから私が言い返しているのに、さっきからあなたは私に任せっきりで、その私に頭を冷やして来いなんて言うんですか？いつも私ばかり。私はいつも真剣にこの家のことを考えているのに、それはあなたは
Natsui was already unable to hide her tears. She flew from the room in that state. After that, all that remained was a somewhat embarrassed mood about the parlor. When the sound of his grew distant, silence returned. Cross shrugged his shoulders slightly.
妻が失礼した。昔から感情を抑えるのが下手でね。私も苦労している。
あんなのに切り盛りされてたんじゃ、兄さんも気苦労が絶えないわね。
奥様。
何でもありません。下がりなさい。
Natsui flew into her room and threw herself onto her bed, lamenting. His heart-wrenching sobs reached Kumasawa in the hallway.
おいたわしや奥様。奥様とエヴァ様は犬猿の仲。このお二人の関係を説明するのは女の私にはとてもしんどくございます。後ろ宮家は血を特に重んじられますが、嫁いで家を出れば本来は序列から除籍されます。ですからエヴァ様も本来は秀吉様とのご成婚の際に除籍されるはずだったのです。ところがこれは誰のせいでもありません。ましてや奥様のせいであろうはずもありません。神様の気まぐれとしか言いようがありません。クラウス様と夏日様にはなかなか子宝が授からなかったのです。何しろ男尊女卑の後ろ宮家でございます。妻は跡継ぎを残すための道具。その妻が唯一の役割を果たせないのなら、もはや人間扱いなどされません。当時の奥様が親方様からどれほど責め苛まれていたか思い出すのも苦しゅうございます。そんな中、エヴァ様に秀吉様とのご結婚の話が持ち上がりました。エヴァ様は狡猾でした。奥様がいつまでも身ごもられないことにつけ入って親方様に取り入ったのです。入り婿を取って自分が跡継ぎを産むと吹き込み、ご自分の席を後宮家にとどまらせるよう認めさせたのでございます。後宮家に嫁ぎ外様扱いの奥様と入り婿を取る形で血族として残ったエヴァ様は後宮家の序列の中では雲泥の差。しかもエヴァ様は先にそれも男児をご出産されております。どれほど奥様の立場がエヴァ様の前で弱いものであったかお察しいただけますでしょうか。奥様にとってはもし自分がすぐに解任することができれば、エヴァ様の入り婿など親方様に認めさせずに済み、今日のエヴァ様の増長を許さずに済んだだろうという悔しい気持ちがあるに違いありません。しかしそれは奥様のせいであろうはずもない。すべては気まぐれな神様とジェシカさんをお届けすることが遅れたコウノトリのせいなのでございます。だからといって奥様にはそうと割り切れるはずもない。ただただ妻としての責務を全うできなかったことに女として悔し涙をこぼすしかできないでしょう。はあ、おいたわしや。私には何もできず、こうして物陰から見守ることしかできないのです。
And now we made it through another interval. I think this will be a good place to end this video. If you're enjoying the series, don't forget to rate, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next part of Umineko.